As the point was made previously, the M1 of World War II, the various weapons that we saw the Chinese marching with, those ancient guns were far less lethal because they may have had a larger slug, but the muzzle velocity was much less. They didn't tumble, and that's why they were excluded from the ban.
Yeah, he just said that. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for NR certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like my channel, like my content, and would like to support what I do here, you can use the link in the description box. Everything is appreciated. But let's talk about this. There's a couple clips here I want to play for you. Now, with the judge in Illinois overturning Illinois' assault weapons ban, using the Bruin ruling as the foundation, Carl Higbee, who runs the show on Newsmax, had Cam Edwards, who's the editor of Bearing Arms, and Holly Sullivan, who is the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, which is a gun right group here in Connecticut. And I'm going to go ahead and play that clip, because there's good information in there, but let's go ahead and watch that.
All right, let's do some gun stuff. On Friday, U.S. District Judge Stephen McGlynn issued a temporary injunction blocking the, quote, assault weapons ban in Illinois. Now, the judge ruled that the law, which was signed into action by Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker in January, infringed on our Second Amendment rights in light of the recent Supreme Court decision of Bruin. Noble concept. For more on this, let's welcome in editor at Bearing Arms and Second Amendment advocate Cam Edwards, and also the president of Citizens Defense League, Holly Sullivan. All right, welcome to both of you. Holly, I go to you first on this. The big issue with this, quote, assault weapons ban, you saw this in Connecticut under the 1160 bill, is post-Bruin, it's been applied to weapons not in production at the time of the writing of the Constitution. What say you?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And we're also talking about firearms that are in common use. These are some of the most popular firearms across the country. And for any judge to rule that these firearms are unusual and dangerous is simply incorrect. So definitely very excited about some of the progress that's happening in Illinois, as I think it's going to have far-reaching repercussions around the rest of the country. Yeah.
Cam, but here we do have a problem. Like, there's a lot of states that are banning these left and right. Washington State, Illinois just got it struck down, but Connecticut and New Jersey and a variety of others, you can't own this, but yet there's 25 million of them floating around the country. Do you think this is going to get overturned with the Maryland case?
I do. I think that the Fourth Circuit is holding on to a case called Bianchi versus Jones, I believe. Now we have a new attorney general since this case was first filed. I think that's the case that's going to get to the Supreme Court first. There is a case out of Illinois, Naperville, Bevis versus Naperville, and the National Association for Gun Rights just petitioned the Supreme Court to basically take the emergency step of granting a restraining order, and that's pretty rare, right? The court declined to do this post-Bruin in New York with their carry laws. I'm not convinced that anything has really changed in the court's reasoning. I think they want to see how the lower courts are dealing with these issues, but I think when they do get a hold of a gun ban case, like Holly said, the writing's on the wall, right? These are guns that are in common use for lawful purposes by millions of Americans. As Judge McGlynn noted, there are more AR-15s than Ford F-150 pickup trucks. And I just saw a story today that the Ford F-150 is the most popular truck or vehicle in the state of Colorado. So we are talking about arms that are in common use. They are protected by the Second Amendment, and there's no way around it.
Sure, and just a ratio based on my gun ownership, I own an F-150, but a lot more AR-15 style rifles. So, Holly, to KJP's point, who wants to make everything about the gun, it's never the person pulling the trigger. Listen to what she said.
Congress must act, because what makes tragedies like this one all the more heart-wrenching is the fact that it is entirely within our power to take these weapons of war off our streets. The president continues to believe that Congress must act without delay. It's not too late to save lives and prevent the next mass shooting.
No matter the fact that this guy was deported like 5 times. They couldn't do that, but it's the gun's fault, right, Holly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you got to just listen to some of the language that's being used there. These are not weapons of war. And I think there is a negligence on the part of the administration to actually educate the American public about what these firearms are and certainly what they aren't. And I think, that is clearly spelled out here in the language that she used.
Well, that the weapons of war. Guess what the Second Amendment is there for? Tyranny. So if they are weapons of war, they're even more justified to be unbelievable. But Cam, if you look on the federal background check, okay, you know this. It asks you right here, 12C, are you an alien illegally or unlawfully in the United States? So the guy shouldn't have even had a gun in the first time, which goes to the point, bad guys are going to get guns no matter what.
Well, that's true. Listen, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have laws, but we also should enforce those laws. And there's another form of that same background check, Carl, that asks if you're an unlawful user of drugs. It sure sounds to me like one Hunter Biden may have lied when he, answered that question in the 4473. But so far, no prosecutions. And it is a matter of enforcement. What we see in so many of these cases, time and time again, you've got individuals who are caught committing violent crimes. They are let loose while they're out on bond. They go on to commit another. I had a story at Bearing Arms just yesterday. One of the teenagers who was arrested at the site of a mass shooting in South Carolina was out on bond. This guy's been arrested 3 times since March the 1st for illegally carrying a gun.
Yeah.
And every time he gets a low bond and he's out of jail within a couple of hours. No matter the threat that this individual may pose to the community or the fact that he's not learned his lesson, this is happening in city after city across the country. The idea that we're going to ban our way to safety is absolutely nonsensical, particularly, as you say, when we're talking about guns. They're not used in a lot of crimes to begin with, but are owned by tens of millions of peaceable, law-abiding Americans who aren't going to give them up.
Well, look, at least Democrats are consistent. Consistently bad, but consistent. Cam, Holly, appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, you heard that and you saw that. Now, as always, the position of the left, the anti-gun crowd, the progressives, is always banning weapons of war. And yet you ask them, well, what war was the AR-15 used in? They can't tell you because it's never been used in any battlefield. But what's really interesting, and I want to go ahead and pull this clip up. There's a representative, Thomas Massey, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's out of Pennsylvania. Maybe wrong on that. But he pointed out in one of the gun control ban hearings, his assault weapons ban brought forward by one of the Democrats. He brought up a great point, talking about weapons of war, where he pointed out that the M1 Garand is exempt from the assault weapons ban that they were pushing through. And he brought up the quote from General Patton, where General Patton called the M1 Garand the greatest battlefield implement ever made. But listen to this exchange. I'm going to bring you parts of it. And you're, of course, going to hear the words of wisdom on ballistics from Nadler. But let's go ahead and watch that.
That's good. It was recognized.
I would like to give the author of this bill a chance to explain why he chooses to ban a firearm that shoots a .223 round, but not ban a military weapon that shoots a .30-06 round.
As I explained before, the assault weapons ban that is before the committee identifies 5 characteristics. Those characteristics come from a report that was commissioned by President Bush, done by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, that looked at what were the characteristics that would distinguish a sporting weapon from a military weapon. And they concluded that the characteristics that are described in this bill are things which have a military purpose and have no hunting or sporting purpose. They further concluded that they increase the lethality of the firearm and the effectiveness of killing great numbers of people in the shortest period of time. In fact, they were weapons of war.
Well,
those characteristics are what make this weapon dangerous.
You're saying because this gun has a pistol grip, it's more lethal than the gun that shoots a cartridge that's twice as powerful. The specific gun I'm asking you about is M1 Garand, And I'm going to read to you, I've got it here on a poster behind me.
Oh, if you're talking about the weapon behind, that's a historic weapon. So
gonna
that's
read-
exempted because it's a historic, it's like a relic. It's
gonna
like a
read-
collector's item.
So it's
Nobody
safe.
uses those in mass shootings. Last time I checked.
I'm going to submit for the record 2 articles from the 90s where that gun was used in a shooting.
30 years ago?
No, what you're pretending is that you can ban a plastic gun and that a wooden gun won't be used. I'll have to read him a quote again from General Patton. In my opinion, the M1 rifle is the greatest battle implement ever invented. Now, I know...
If you're quoting General Patton, that's good evidence it's a historic weapon.
Because what I need to also show you, because we were forced to watch a video of ballistics of a .223 round entering gelatin. You should also show the video of a .30-06 round entering gelatin, because it's more than twice as powerful. And this is not the gun that Mr. Cicilline bans, because it doesn't get him any political points. Every one of you are saying this bill bans weapons of war, when in fact it bans AR-15s, not M16s, and it specifically exempts the M1 carbine, which I showed you a picture at Iwo Jima was used. It specifically exempts the M1 Garand. The reason you exempt them, they have wood. They are wooden. I would yield if you can explain why the black plastic gun that shoots .223 is more lethal than the wooden gun that shoots .30-06.
As the point was made previously, the M1 of World War II, the various weapons that we saw the Chinese marching with, those ancient guns were far less lethal because they may have had a larger slug, but the muzzle velocity was much less. They didn't tumble, and that's why they were excluded from the ban.
The reality is they're heavier. They are more lethal, but they are heavier. And they came up with a smaller gun that was lighter to carry. That's the only difference. The lethality is greater on the M1 Garand.
You heard that and you saw that. Now, what Nadler doesn't seem to understand, he doesn't know squat about ballistics. That's clear. That's absolutely clear. The reason why most states in the Union won't allow you to hunt deer with a caliber smaller than 30. You have to use a 30 or bigger to hunt deer in most states, because anything smaller they consider inhumane and does not kill the deer quickly enough. Other than 30-30, I believe 30-06 has taken more deer in this country than anything else. Why? Because it kills instantly. He's talking about the velocity on the 30-06 is lower. Yeah, and you're talking about a slug that's almost what? Almost 3 times larger than a .223? Who cares what velocity it hits you at? It's going to kill you. But these people don't know squat. And that's sad, because they just make up stuff and they got plenty of drones to go along with whatever they say. But I just wanted to show you that clip because it is, he's talking about these are ancient relic weapons. The SKS, the M1 Garand, which is still made, the M1 carbine, which is still made, they're all relics. It's frightening. These are the people who are making the rules. These are the people who claim to be all about safety. And you saw the Democrat rep there scream out about guns that are killing our children. This is the same guy coming from the party who says that abortion is good all the way up until the moment of birth. But they care about children. Just saying, right? A little backwards. But we know what this is all about. And then, as you heard Cam Edwards point out, we've got a case coming up that's probably going to hit the Supreme Court here, hopefully this year. So that's going to set the precedent for everything else coming up. It'd be nice if the Supreme Court would look at all the assault weapon ban lawsuits that are going on, Grant versus Malloy, the one in Colorado, the one in Illinois, all across, I believe there's one in New York also, but all across the country. And just Supreme Court says, look, all these cases are similar and common in their aspects. Let's just conjoin all of them together and rule on the whole thing in one shot. That would be the most beautiful thing you could ever imagine. But in the meantime, as you can see here in Connecticut, what they're going to keep trying to pass a whole lot of gun ban laws, which then have to go back to the courts to be overturned. But Once again, stay vigilant, and special thanks, of course, to Holly Sullivan here in Connecticut in the CCDL, because they're at the forefront of bringing this information to us in Connecticut. As I said, you don't have to be a Connecticut resident to donate to them. They're also backing a lot of lawsuits that happen, I believe, in other parts of the country. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I will see you on the next one. Peace.